Hey guys, all right, well, back with another video, and this one I am so excited about. I am going to take you guys along with me as I pour my new citronella orange metal bucket candles for the summer. So I'm excited that you're here. If this is your first time, my name is Jessica, and I'm the owner and operator of Roundtown Candle Co. And this year, my absolute screaming joy for summer is citronella candles. So I am going to be pouring these buckets. And before I start, I will link everything below from the video today. These little metal buckets I bought off of Amazon, and they're the perfect size. Now, I will say this, they're not waterproof, which means they will not hold your wax. So these are, kind of advertised as like party favors or succulents or, more of just putting some things in there and not so much as like using them for anything liquid or fluid. So I'm going to come around here and show you guys what I'm talking about. So you can see, sorry, awkward close up. You can see right here, there's a seam on this bucket. And then also in the bottom, all the way around the bottom, there's a gap. You can't see it now because if you can see that there, I have sealed that up. But there was a space where clearly you could see that there was no sealed seam. So what I did is I have a caulking gun and I bought a tube of the clear RTV sealant. And again, I will link everything below. So when you are doing this, it is of the utmost importance that anytime you're sealing anything, you make sure that the sealant can withstand high heat. So mine specifically said high heat on the front of it. And then I verified it's actually for like sealing around fireplaces, fireplace inserts, and all that. So if it can withstand that, I'm sure it can withstand my candles. So, but again, it's just super duper important that you make sure when you're doing that, that it says right on there that it can withstand the high heat. So I thought about actually doing that, showing you guys that process, but the RTV sealant is very fumy. And so I did not want to do it in the home. So I actually did it in my workplace, and was just where I work is not set up for me to try to film. I work in a auto repair shop. I run the office. So we have a nice table out in the garage where I was able to take all of these out there and apply the sealant around the base and up the side of that seam. But it's like a really noisy environment and there's a lot of movement that goes on. So it just wasn't ideal for me to take you guys along with me on that. I know Jeff Stanley of Stanley Handcrafted, I know he's got a video where he shows that process. So, and then I'm sure, like anything else, you can just YouTube how to use a caulking gun, things like that, and you'll get it. So at any rate, it was very easy. I did it all by myself. So it wasn't anything where, it was difficult or confusing or I didn't have the physical strength for it. It was super easy. So now I'm just going to start wicking these buckets. Oh, I did want to say, I bought a few of these buckets prior to this, obviously for testing. And at that time, I just used like a small tube of the RTV. I didn't buy the whole big thing that you put in the caulking gun because I was worried like, well, if I don't like this, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't turn out how I want it to, I don't really need like this whole thing. So I just bought a small tube that you just squirt out almost like a toothpaste tube for testing purposes. And before I did that, I put water in each of these buckets to make sure that they were properly sealed, that I did not miss any spots. And it's so important to do that because 2 of the buckets like started leaking as soon as I put water in them, which means as soon as I would have filled them with wax, you know, same thing would have happened. So with these, I think using the caulking gun was a lot better for application purposes. And so I didn't have any issues this time around. I did check all of these prior to doing what I'm doing right now, which is wicking. Because again, I don't want to pour and have wax spilling on my table, or, you know, certainly don't want somebody else to start burning their candle and wax starts pouring out everywhere. So all of these are sealed. I had 0 issues with that. I didn't have any of them that leaked at all from using the tube that I got for my caulking gun. So super easy, guys. If I can do it, anybody can do it. All right, so I am outside a lot in the summertime. We are campers. Well, I guess you would say glampers. We have an RV. And so when we go camping, I obviously, you know, I live in Ohio. It's hot and mosquito-y. So I definitely need citronella. But I do not like your typical citronella bucket. You know, the ones you buy at the big box stores like Walmart and everything. They're giant buckets. They're just straight citronella, which I think citronella on its own is not too exciting of a smell, in my personal opinion. So, you know, and then those buckets are usually pretty big. They're dirt cheap. And I can see why. Again, I always preach that I am one of those people who gets really bad headaches from candles that are made with waxes that contain paraffin and, you know, all of that other stuff. I don't know. This is soy wax and as clean of fragrances as a girl could use. So, I'm not a fan of the citronella buckets. I'm just not. They don't burn well. They always seem to tunnel. I don't know. I don't like them. So last year I did a citronella candle just in my regular 8-ounce and 4-ounce jars. And I really liked them a lot. And I would take them with me to the campground. And actually, I even made wax melts. And for someone who's got electric, like if you're sitting on your porch or whatever, I put a few, we have a table that we sit outside up against the RV, just like once we get into like food prep or setting things out or whatever. And so I plugged in a wax melter and I threw a few cubes in there. And that was perfect because even if we were going inside the RV or we were going to take a walk or go do whatever, I never had to worry about blowing out my candle. I constantly had the citronella smell in the air. And my most favorite thing is that this just isn't straight citronella. This is citronella orange. And that citrus changes everything. It is a game changer. It smells so amazing. To me, it smells like summer. And so I'm really excited. So our campsite always smells like this because, like I said, it's so perfect with the wax melts. You just put the melter out and you don't really have to worry about too much. So I thought this year well, let's do this first. Getting ahead of myself. This year I was really excited about, you know, now that I've got my brick and mortar, I was really excited about, you know, pushing the citronella candles, but I really like the buckets, the idea of the bucket. I didn't want one that's so huge that you feel like you have to burn it all summer. And they always collect like, I don't know, bugs and rainwater, and they get super, super black with soot. I don't know if you've ever noticed that or not. But at any rate, so I was really excited about the idea of creating my own bucket that's just a way better version, in my opinion, than what you can buy in the store. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm just going to finish getting this all of these wicked. I already have my wax. I've already added my fragrance oil to it. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells so good. And it is getting to temperature now. So I just figured I would go ahead and keep on with all this. So if you can tell, I'm sure you can, I sort of look a little pink in the face. We had track yesterday, the district track meet, which Brandon finished his, my son Brandon finished his high school track career yesterday. He had 2 races and did really well. And so that was very bittersweet because it's the last time I'll see him run. And then Ellie advanced to regionals for the 800 meter individual race, and then also advanced to regionals for the girls 4x4 relay team. So we're going to keep going on, which is exciting. But yeah, if you guys know anything about Ohio, the weather is really crazy. We just go from like chill to all of a sudden it's just going to be blazing hot. That's where we are right now. So it got a lot hotter yesterday than I was anticipating. So I didn't plan properly and I got more sun than what I needed to on my face, but it's all good. It's not like so bad that I'm blistering. So these little buckets are really pretty cute. And you could use them for a lot. There's no doubt about that. But I think they're going to make the perfect little candles because obviously I already tested and I did a complete test on one and then I've started to partial burn another one. But here is what that looks like. I should have just kept one that I didn't do anything to so you could see what it looks like because it's so cute. And then I'm gonna have to show you guys too, I found a way to package these up because obviously you can't really find lids for these buckets, and so I wasn't really sure how to kind of keep them protected, keep dust off of them or whatever. And so, you know, for selling purposes. And so I came up with a really cool idea. So I will share that with you guys here shortly. But I feel like I'm finally ready to get back into my game. I have been off mentally for a while with everything that's going on in life. The kids getting ready to graduate and just, it's been really busy and kind of overwhelming. And so now things should be settling down. I'm feeling ready to refocus. And I just made a purchase. Actually just made my first purchase from Alibaba. I have been on there and have scrolled before. I've looked at stuff, never bought anything off of there. And I found some really, really cute jars for fall. So I took the plunge and made a purchase. So once that comes in, I will do like an unboxing with you guys. I'm sure it will be like a month or more because obviously it is literally going to be coming over from China. And it feels really weird to buy off of that site. But when you don't have a lot of options of things being made in the United States, what are you supposed to do? I don't have a problem with paying for, you know, things that are made here in the US, but there's just not a lot that's made here anymore. So I will say the RTV sealant that I used for these buckets is made in the US. And so I was like super excited, and that's pretty sad when you get excited over something that's made in the US. That just goes to show how few things are made in the US. But anyways, we don't need to go in on that whole tangent, but I was just simply saying that I made my first purchase, and I am optimistic about it. I hope it'll go well. But honestly, like I already told myself that if this is a total flop, like it's okay. I didn't put so much money out there that if it turns out to be a dud, that I'm going to be like, you know, out a whole bunch of money and devastated and all that stuff. I mean, I don't obviously want to lose my money, but I think it should probably work out okay. Because honestly, I think all the companies that you can buy stuff from here in the US are probably just buying from them too. All right, so everything is wicked. And I need to show you guys a couple things here. Let me get the rest of these out of the way. All right, so when it comes to purchasing something that is not your normal jar, everyone calls them vessels. I always call them jars. I don't know why that is. But anyways, how did I do these before? How did I do these testers? Did I do them like that? I do not remember. This is crazy. I can't remember how I did these. But when it comes to purchasing something that's not your normal, and you have to figure out the wax. Ugh. All right, I definitely need to get some chopsticks. Everyone's been telling me that I need chopsticks for this stuff. I'm trying to remember how I did these. Okay, probably that. I've been testing so much stuff and doing so much stuff, I forget. I don't know if that ever happens to you guys, but I literally just forgot that one. But anyhow, I'm going to explain to you here just shortly on how I figured out how much wax and fragrance oil I needed for this container. So I am going to go ahead and get these on, and then we will have that discussion. So let me do this because it's a little bit of a visual. All right, let me finish these up, then we'll be ready. I will explain to you how I calculated this, and then we'll be ready to pour these buckets. So give me just a few minutes. All right, guys, so I got everything wicked and the wick holders in place, and I used metal wick holders for part of them, and then I used my little clothespins for the other, so because I didn't have enough to do all of them in one. But anyhow, they work, so that's what we'll go with. All right, so the wax is seconds away from reaching temperature. I want to show you guys, let's see, on my little dry erase board. So I bought this little dry erase board, which has been super helpful because when I'm getting ready to do a pour like this, I can do all my math and everything there, and then it's magnetic, and so it'll stick on my stainless steel table. So when I go over to the other side where my DigiBoil is and I'm getting ready to get my wax and all that, it's easy just to turn around and see what I have going. So let me show you this. I'll come around here for this part. I feel like Vanna White. See my red nose and red forehead from yesterday? Lovely. All right, so to do this, the bucket, first you have to figure out how much does the bucket hold, because we don't know. And so these buckets aren't made for pouring candles. They're made for holding whatever, you know, stuff. So I filled the bucket with water and measure that. So you want to make sure you measure the bucket by itself first, and then put the water in it and measure it, because you need to subtract the weight of the bucket. So the water weight in these buckets is 7.8 ounces. But water and wax do not weigh the same. They do not measure the same. So you take the water weight and you multiply it by this magic number of 0.86, and that gets you the weight of your wax and fragrance. But that's the wax and the fragrance together. So if you use this and calculate that way, you will be over top of that, if that makes sense. I think I just confused that. But at any rate, this is going to be your total weight for the bucket. So now we have to figure out how much of that total weight is wax and how much of it is fragrance. So I take my 6.7 ounces of total weight and I'm going to divide that by 109% because in this one I'm using a 9% fragrance. So that gives me 6.1 ounces. So that's how much my wax is going to be. Now we take our starting total of 6.7 ounces. We're going to subtract 6.1 ounces, which is how much wax we need, and that gets us 0.6 ounces. So per bucket, it'll hold 6.1 ounces of wax and 0.6 ounces of fragrance oil. And if you add those two together, that gets you your 6.7 ounce total weight. So now I'm doing 3 pours in a quantity of 10. So for each of my 10 buckets, it'll be 3 pounds and 13 ounces of wax and 6 ounces of fragrance oil. So you can see that there. So it's not difficult to come up with those numbers. It just takes a few minutes in a calculator. And then, like I said, this is magnetic, so I can just pop it over here. Maybe. Maybe not. It didn't want to stay on that side. It stayed over here earlier. There we go. But anyways, I'm done with this, so I'm not even worried about it. So that's how you calculate for your particular jar that you're using, or bucket, or whatever you've got, because you need to break it up into how much of it is going to be wax weight and how much of it is going to be fragrance oil weight to get to the total weight that you desire. So if we math this out right, then I should be able to equally fill 10 buckets out of a pitcher. So we're about to find that out. And I am going to use this because why not? It makes it so much easier to pour, in my opinion. Now, I don't clean this out in between each use. I used to do that, but I don't. So once I pour this in, I'm going to give it a minute because around the plunger, there's going to be a little bit of wax left over from my previous pour. So I want to heat that up and melt it. One thing that I learned by mistake, which is pretty much how we always learn best. One time I poured the wax in and immediately pushed the plunger to open it up. And where the wax had hardened and I pushed on the plunger pretty hard, it actually broke it. So I'm trying to avoid that. I always put it over my pitcher and give it a little push just to make sure that seal's broken, and it is. So we're ready. So we'll start back here, and one thing I like to do is I like to use a little bit of a light just to help me out, because sometimes when I'm looking over top of these, the light kind of plays tricks on my eyes with the wax. So I want to make sure that I can see my lines good. And these little buckets actually have a couple lines on them, which is nice because that's going to allow me to give a good even pour. So we'll just go across the line here. These smell really good. It is just, it's not that super strong citronella. The citrus just really, that orange just really brightens it up so nicely. All right. And I don't see anything coming out the bottom of any of them, which is a good sign. Even though I already checked them all, I was like, still have that little bit of like, oh, I really hope my sealant did its job. I think we're good. I think we are going to be good. All right, so we'll finish getting these poured. And then what I will do is I will come back tomorrow. And once everything is dried, and we'll label these up and I will show you how I'm going to package these up as far as how I'm going to protect the top. So once I get through this first pour, I will stop my video for the day. I'll finish pouring the rest of them. And then, like I said, tomorrow we'll finish up, and then I will post the video. So you'll get to see the whole thing start to finish, but it'll be a new day. New day, new outfit. It's supposed to be even hotter here tomorrow. I think it's supposed to be pushing 90. So that's going to be fun. I work in a building that has no air conditioning. The office that I'm in is the only place in the building that has AC. But I'm in and out a lot, so it gets pretty hot. So tomorrow might not look quite as good as today, but we'll do our best. All right, guys. I'm going to finish up these last two. We'll see if the pour is spot on or not. I always get nervous on the last one. Like, am I going to come up short? I did not. It looks amazing. Oh my gosh, perfect. So the formula for finding the wax weight by using the water weight works spot on, because those are even as can be. Super happy with those. All right, guys, that's all for today. I will be back and we will finish this up and go from there. So have a good one, and I will see you guys soon. All right, guys. Well, I am back. I wasn't sure if I was going to get to this spot today or not, but as it turns out, I did. So I just want to kind of go over the last part of these metal buckets and what I have planned as far as labeling and packing goes. So right now, I'm just finishing up with putting on my warning labels, which if you've not seen, I did a video previously about how I custom make my own warning labels. And I do that because you can see on that one, I've got the price and the barcode, because I do have a brick and mortar store. And so for me, it's a lot easier. I've got the Shopify barcode scanner. And so I can just customize these for each product, and then I just scan it. It makes it go super fast. So I have all of my buckets now are properly labeled with the warning label. Now, when it comes to the actual label, I've got, you can see there is some dimension to the side of the bucket. And so I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to work a label with that. So I started out working with one of the testers that I had actually started to burn. And so I did a 1x4, which would work, except that when you put it on there, because of the top, and then by the time it gets to the bottom, it narrows slightly, and it just does some weird curve motion that just makes it look really janky. So that's not going to work. So it's going to try a smaller one, like a 1x3, still no go. So I thought, well, maybe I could just do something and tie it to the handle, but I don't really want to have to take extra steps. I don't really want to have to purchase anything else. I have a ton of labels here. So I just decided that I was going to use one of my round labels. So this is the label. This is the 2 1/4 round label from Avery. So if you decide to make these buckets, like I said, I'll have everything listed in the description below. But I just went on where I make my own labels anyhow, and I created one for this candle. So I will just lay this bucket down, and I just eyeball it when I put it on there and see how this is going to go. And this is what it looks like. So I think that is going to work. I mean, I think it's going to be all right. I don't really think that the indentation from the lines or the grooves that go around the bucket are really going to be a big deal. So, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. I think it's going to work out fine. So this is what it'll look like. Again, then we have the warning label, the cute little handle, and then this is how the candle turned out. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys in this video is how I plan to package these up. Like I talked about earlier, I don't, you can't really do a lid for these of any kind. I didn't really want to do the dust shield because I don't have a super exact wick centering tool for this. I do use my wick centering plunger, but because of these little tabs on the side, sometimes they're just slightly off. So, I'm trying to work smarter and not harder. So this is what I came up with. Now, this will be an extra step, there's no doubt, but it's going to work and it's really cool. So these are the heat shrink bags that I use for my goat milk soap. So, this is how normally you just open them up and put your soap in there. So I messed around with this. So at the seam, it just tears like super easy. So I just tear it on that side, and then I go over to the other side where there's that little seam and tear that, and it comes apart so easy. So I just took the bag like this and just literally tore it apart, tore it open. So now you just slide it underneath the handle so that it covers the top. And then what we're going to do is, I got to get it underneath the little handle. And this isn't going to be 100%, but what this is going to do is keep the dust off the top of the candle. And obviously these bags do allow scent to come through, which is what we want because we want people to be able to pick up and smell them. So then on the other side, I'm going to bring those two together, just like you're wrapping a present, and I'm going to tape them. So I just brought it together at the bottom and put a piece of tape on it. And so it looks like this. All right. So now I'm going to pull that back down there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get the heat gun and we're going to heat shrink this. So let me do this real quick here. All right. So this is now what it looks like. You can still see the label. It looks really nice and clean. You can see right there the open spot because obviously this does not cover the whole thing. And again on the other side. And let me make sure this isn't too hot to touch. We're okay. And then you can see on the bottom where I did the heat shrink. So it's nice and sealed there. And it has not impacted my label any. My barcode label gun should still pick that up with no problems. And then here's what the top looks like. So if you see, there's just a teeny tiny opening right there. But again, this, and I think honestly that wouldn't have been there, but I hit the gun on it one more time at the very end, and I think that caused that to come in a little bit. So that may not even be that way on the other ones. But still, the point is we're just trying to protect the majority of the top of the candle from, dust and things like that. And then you can still smell it through there. So that's perfect. The handle is still free to move. And so this is what we have for our summer citronella orange buckets. So I am really excited about this. I think that these are going to do very well in the store. Online, if you want one, you can scoop them up. They'll be ready in a couple weeks because obviously the wax has to cure. So I am going to finish with getting all of these wrapped up. And I'm super glad you guys were hanging out with me today. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, it would be amazing if you would do that. Feel free to leave any comments or suggestions or questions. I always go back through and answer everything. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Have a good one.